Hey, it's Low Profile. I'm Markley Morrison, and this is Keep Dreamin' by Steve Arrington from his album Down to the Lowest Terms, The Soul Sessions. Steve Arrington was born and raised into soul music and an active participant in the emerging funk scene in Dayton, Ohio back in the early 1970s. You've heard him sampled by a lot of your favorite rappers, including NWA, Jay-Z, and Dr. Dre, like household names, right? He was in a band called Slave, then later Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame, and after that, he took some time off to become a preacher.
I told myself I'm never gonna hold back. I told myself I'm never gonna look back. I made up my mind. I made up my mind. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. It's what I'm gonna do.
And it had been more than 15 years before he returned to music because Dame Funk and Stone's Throw Records reached out to him, and in his own words,
this was the first time that a producer had sent me tracks. I sang to it, gave it a title, sent it back, and they were like, yo, man, we're feeling this. Hey, man, why don't you just come and join the Stone's Throw family?
Since then, he's continued to carry on his tradition of funk. Still living in Dayton, Ohio, he's got recent collaborations with heavy hitters like George Clinton and Snoop Dogg.
It don't matter to me how long the focus in me so strong, baby. I take a bite of this truth I'm on. My mama said keep on going, baby. Keep dreaming.
Before we go any further, Low Profile is listener-supported programming. That means I rely on donations. If you feel like you can handle a donation to Low Profile, even like a couple bucks a month, it would mean the world to me and help keep this machine going. You can do that by visiting patreon.com/lowprofile. And if you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend about this show. The artwork for this episode and all Season 5 episodes was painted by Nathan Burko Gibson, and Low Profile receives in-kind support from these generous independent Olympia, Washington businesses: San Francisco Street Bakery, Schwartz's Deli, Rainy Day Records and Tapes, Old School Pizzeria, and Schurler Easy Premium Shitty American Lager from Three Magnets Brewing. All right, so let's get to this interview. I spoke to Steve Arrington from his studio, The Lab, in Dayton, Ohio. Hey.
Markley, it's good to hear you, my brother. Good to hang out. I'm looking forward to doing this interview with you.
Steve Arrington, Titan of Funk. I'm so thrilled to be speaking with you. Thank you for making time for me.
Hey, man, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man. Hey, can you set the scene for me? Where are you?
I'm in Dayton, Ohio, in the lab where I cook up that funkiness. And yeah, I'm down in the lab. I'm looking at some cool pictures. Got Miles over here. Got Hendrix over here. I have Stravinsky over here, and B.B. King, and some others.
Nice, you're in good company.
Hey, I like to keep the greats around, inspiration, you know.
I know you grew up in Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always lived there?
Well, I've sort of lived several places. Grew up in Dayton, as you said, and I've also lived in Los Angeles. I've also lived in Berkeley, in the Bay Area, and I've lived in New Jersey, East Orange, New Jersey, and I've lived in New York, and also Miami as well,
Miami
and
too.
Atlanta.
Wow. All right. Yeah, all the hot spots. Killer.
Yeah, just trying to keep it going, and I love to move around and do different things and be in different scenes, and it pulls out different music in you.
Yeah, but am I correct to assume that Dayton put the music in you? That's what put the funk inside you?
Absolutely, and of course I've spent the most time, even as an adult, in as I've gotten older, I've spent more time in Dayton, not just growing up here, but I did some moving, but most of the time I've lived in Dayton area.
So what were you digging on when you were coming up there that got you interested in making music of your own?
Well, right off the rip, I have to say James Brown. I
Uh-huh.
remember hearing my first song that I ever liked was Shimmy Shimmy Cocoa Bop, Little Anthony and the Imperials. I was just a little dude, but to get my music attention going and the interest in drums, which is my first instrument, was James Brown, and the song was Cold Sweat.
Yep, that'll do it to you. That'll put the rhythm in your head.
Yes,
So
sir.
when did you start playing drums, man?
Well, I started playing around 8 years old. My brother had a band, a local band, and a lot of great musicians from Dayton had come out of his local band.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, Marvin Craig from Lakeside, the bass player for Lakeside, came out of my brother's band. The great,
Fantastic Voyage. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. The great Junie Morrison, prior to joining the Ohio Players, was in my brother's band.
Uh-huh.
And yes, and the original drummer for Slave was in my brother's band as well. Tim Dozier, the nickname Tiny, and yeah, man, it was great. And I also played in my brother's band as well. I was playing bongos, and I couldn't go to all the gigs because I was a little guy. But the ones that weren't in the clubs, I was able to play. So yeah, man, I had music around me all the time, starting with my brother's band, the Soul Agents, and then they had also another group called the Citations. And I saw these guys, these great musicians, practicing before I got involved. I just watched them rehearse, and then they allowed me to be a part of it.
Yeah, they practice at your house?
Sure did. My mother was the
Yeah.
manager for a while, and here's what was cool. One of the drummers, Michael Stevenson, rest in peace, we called him Chubbs. He would allow me to play his drums after their rehearsals. He trusted I would be okay, and so I was able to play, a professional kit. It was a lot of fun coming up. Music was around.
And so you mentioned though playing drums in Slave, and later you became the lead vocalist. Is there a song in particular that you're proud of drumming?
Well, my first time of recording in the studio was with Slave, and the first song that I recorded in the studio with Slave on drums was Stellar Funk.
Yeah, I got that album in my hand right now, actually.
Oh yeah, the concept. Yeah, man. So I'm partial to Stellar Funk because that was the first one.
It wasn't long after that. I mean, it was a handful of years, but you wound up with a new project called Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame.
Yes, yes.
And you had some members of Slave collaborating, right?
Yes, the Carter brothers, Charles Carter and Sam Carter, and also the drummer who played live with us, Roger Parker, who was the original drummer with Fazo of, with the great track Riding High. So yeah, there were some cats that came with me, and then I added some new guys to the group as well to form Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame.
And Slave kept going on after that, but y'all just had different trajectories. You guys existed at the same time, Hall of Fame and Slave.
Yes, and in our going different directions, we were still very close, friend-wise, and yeah, they went and did their thing. And the thing about Slave is there was always members changing after the first album. The lineups always changed. But we remained friends, and we were in each other's corners through the years afterwards up till today.
That's great, man. And I know you didn't start the band, but you could take that band name, a number of different ways. Do you know what the intention was behind that band name?
You know what? You would think that something with the name of Slave, that there would be a perhaps a political, social sort of deal with it, but that's not what it was. Floyd Miller came into a rehearsal, had a T-shirt that said Slave, and it had 2 footprints on it, and at that time they were looking at what would be a good name for the group. He walked in that day, and they looked at the T-shirt and said, Slave, that's got a good feel ring to it, and that's what they went with. And when they told me that story, I'm like, you mean there's no particular social political thing to that? Nope. And I says, oh, okay, well, hey, Slave it is.
It's an attention getter.
Absolutely.
And so Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame, you put out an album just called Volume 1. Hypothetically, I mean, I think the world's ready for Volume 2 someday if you ever feel like it. Because that album got sampled by, just off the dome, man, LL Cool J, NWA, Public Enemy, Tribe Called Quest.
Well, the interesting thing about the whole sampling thing is, when it first started to happen, the industry hadn't caught up in terms of how the musicians and the artists would get paid from the sampling. So the first part of it was sort of, well, these songs are being made, but we're not getting paid for it. After that, after the legal side caught up with the artistic side of sampling, I enjoyed it. I always sort of kept my ear to what was going on musically through the years. And yes, the Jermaine Dupri and Jay-Z had their own vibe. Money Ain't a Thing with Weekend and Knees. Then I saw in Straight Outta Compton that Weekend and Knees was the first song that Ice Cube had done a freestyle on.
Oh, wow.
Through the years and listening to the different samples and how they were used, Brand Nubians did Nobody Can Be You But You. They flipped that song. And hey, I enjoyed it. I like how music goes through its own progressions. You can't put a finger on what's going to happen, where it's going to go. And I was always open to hear and sort of get an understanding of all of that. And that's how I looked at sampling as well.
When you're making that album in particular, nowhere in the back of your head is that you're creating, a not so secret weapon for like hip hop royalty. You just happen to wind up being a part of that history by doing what you love to do. And I think there's just something really beautiful about that.
Yeah, you never know what the music's gonna do once you're done with it. You know you're inspired by it yourself in making it, but no one knows the legs, as I'll call it, how it moves through, decades. Is it music that younger people will find and get interested in and enjoy and want to know about artists who are from a decade and perhaps some further back than that?
Your new album, you kind of get to be on the other side of that coin too, right? You got some sampling happen there because there's all the different producers and all the tracks have sort of a different style, a different feel.
Absolutely, yes.
All
absolutely.
over the place. Such a fun record.
Yes, it's down to the lowest terms. The Soul Sessions is a record for me to be able to go in the many directions that I've enjoyed and come up with musically. We talked about James Brown earlier, but I could also say a major influence was also Mahavishnu Orchestra. And also another important influence would be the group Yes, and then another important influence would be the Chicago blues scene of Hound Dog Taylor, Howlin' Wolf, Coco Taylor, Willie Dixon, and Muddy Waters, people like that. So, I like so many different styles of music. I call myself a music adventurist. Because I dig so many different things. And so I decided, hey, I want to do an album that encompasses more of what I'm into as a musician and an artist, and not hold anything back and just do an album down, say, oh, this is just a straight up funk record. So people say, okay, well, but you called it the Soul Sessions, and I'm saying yes, but the flip on the Soul Sessions is meaning that throughout all this music, I'm giving my heart and my soul to that music, meaning I'm really giving it up. I'm giving all I have. And that's the soul part. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, this is a soul album, yet it is soulful.
Had this song on my mind the moment I opened my eyes. Put a smile on my face. It started my morning just right. It's time to make some moves, yeah. It's got me in a good mood. It's got me in a good mood, yeah. Out the door to my right, look around and I enjoy the sunlight. Yeah. I see it every day.
I think another cool thing about having a different producer for every track is that each of those producers is putting the energy into this one song as if it's the main single.
It was magical, and it was a different way for me to make a record, so it was a new perspective in that way of having different producers on all the different tracks, perhaps maybe a producer or two doing more than one song, but primarily those tracks are all with different producers. And it was fun. And yet, the thing about it, it's going many different directions, but because of my vocal and my writing over these tracks, it just has a cohesiveness about it for me that makes it sound like I'm not trying to go, okay, so this is the jazz track. Oh, okay, this is the more soulful track. No, it has a cohesiveness about it that doesn't sound like collectively we're trying to do something. we're just making good music together. And I guess I'm getting, as you were saying, I was getting the best out of those guys. And they were also getting the best out of me as well.
Yeah, and it really shows. You went in a more gospel direction toward the end of the Hall of Fame era.
Yes.
And I believe I've got like Positive Power, which I think is a very good description of what you do musically, by the way. And then after that, we had the Steve Arrington, solo records coming out, and just very heavy on the gospel messaging, but still bringing the hard funk sound that you were known for. Can you tell me what brought that change in direction on from Hall of Fame into your solo, more gospel-oriented records?
Well, I come from a family of preachers, actually.
How far back?
Well, my great uncle, Charles Cook, had his own church, Bethsaida Baptist, in Dayton. And I used to go to that church when I was a kid. And I have uncles, great uncles who were pastors, and I have cousins even today who are pastors. And it's sort of been in my family. Also, my particular vibe on that was also inspired by the great John Coltrane and Carlos Santana as well, who in their journey through music had an awakening, spiritual awakening of sorts, and their both of their music, you could hear that something had changed, and they went in new directions. So with my background and my interest in the things connecting with God, and also musicians that I appreciated and respected, felt that their music had to reflect their spirituality. I felt the same way. The next album, Positive Power, things started to change as my life started to change and become more filled with my Christian roots were starting to now come and be front and center in my life. And the way I do things, I go with my heart. So when that became more and more dominant in my perspective of how I looked at life, my music reflected that. Of course, when you make a move like that, there's some people who get it, and there's some people who don't, and then there's some people who get it later. But as long as I feel comfortable that I'm doing what's in my heart, then the music will reflect honesty. And for me, that's the bottom line. And I love the Lord, and so I had to put that into the music.
Yeah, and you did it well. Dancing in the Key of Life. I'd like to just let the listeners hear a little bit of that one right now.
Great.
Working Monday through Friday, waiting for my payday. Go to church on Sunday, where I kneel to pray. You know it. I thank God for making my dreams come true. When the demon tries to make the
I also come up in an era when people like David Bowie, I'll say for instance. David Bowie had his singer-songwriter period with his Honky Dory album and that sort of thing. And then he went through the Ziggy Stardust thing, the rock star, unique guy, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, and Aladdin Sane, and then he went into his thing where he went into the suit phase, and he was into being chic and looking like he was doing the model runway thing. And so what I've dug about David Bowie, and same thing about artists like Prince as well, who came up, we came up around the same time, is the ability to not allow convention, the conventional way of what a black artist is supposed to be, and you're supposed to look like this and do this. I always, again, followed my heart. And I thought the biblical toga thing really would put that whole atmosphere of dancing in the key of life and feel so real, bring more energy to what I was trying to convey in the message.
Yeah, no, that works. And you had cool costumes in all the videos I've ever seen, like from those early days. You're a little more casual now, I gotta say. I wouldn't mind seeing you rock some gold lame these days, but
Well, my thing is now, man, I'm rocking my Thelonious Monk tee and my jeans scenarios, and or so my tees, like I've got my Hendrix tees and things like that.
Oh man, I love Thelonious Monk, and that reminds me, we haven't really talked about your keyboard playing. You're very innovative on the keys. On your 2009 album, Pure Thing.
Yes.
There's an instrumental cut on there where you're just letting loose on the keys.
Oh, you're talking
Coolin'?
about
Is
Coolin'?
that the one?
Yes, Coolin'.
Yeah, man.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a dope track.
Man, I'm glad you're feeling Coolin'. That's a special track for me.
Now that came out like after a 20-year interim between records.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, 25,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
25 years. Yeah, man. So can you just give me the rundown of 25 years of no Steve Arrington albums?
Well, I was just starting to feel some energy. See, when I decided to step back out of the music scene, I had said what I wanted to say. I had my inspiration was there at that time, and I wanted to now really send my energies and put my energies into developing my relationship with the Lord, right? And I'd done that, and I hadn't looked back in the music. I was not at all saying, man, I shouldn't have done that, or, I'm itching to get back into it. It didn't happen that way at all. It was just one day, I just got to show love to somebody in the same area and place that I'd become, worldwide. And it was just as simple as that. And this is after 25 years. And it was like, well, okay, that's what I feel in my heart. That's what I'm getting ready to do. I'm doing this thing again. And, I did it pretty much all myself.
Oh, so you produced that one too?
Yes, yeah, I did everything. I mixed it and did everything. There's a rawness about that record too. That it has a raw sort of alive feeling about it. So that was the starting point for me of stepping into the realm that I've continued on with.
Now, I discovered your music sort of accidentally a little bit after that album came out because I have there's a local musician here in Olympia named Arrington de Dioniso, who so Arrington's his first name, and he's a friend of mine. He's a friend of the show. He's actually been on a couple of times, and he makes kind of psychedelic trance punk music to sum it up. But anyway, I his last name's kind of hard to spell, so I just type in Arrington music, and there you are. And I see that you've been working with Dame Funk, who I had recently become totally enamored with.
Yes.
And you put out an album called Higher with Dame Funk that I discovered totally on accident. And so we have Dame Funk's like kind of boogie funk sound, his like signature production, with your signature gospel lyrics and scatting and your just very unique singing styles. And what a great collaboration, in my opinion.
I started getting more and more into underground music. So at the time when Dame Funk hit me up, and then Peanut Butter Wolf, who was the CEO and owner of Stone's Throw, they called me up and said, yeah, man, can we do this 12-inch? And I'm like, yeah, let's do the 12-inch, because I went to listen to Dame Funk's music, and I liked what he was doing. So it started as a 12-inch. The first cut was Magnificent.
Ah, that's a good one.
Like a place like girl, you color the world. Magnificent. You're so magnificent. Your flow is so magnificent. And you're my girl. Magnificent. You're so magnificent. Your flow is so magnificent. And you're my girl.
And this was the first time that a producer had sent me tracks. And then in the lab, which I'm in right now, I sang to it, gave it a title, sent it back, and they were like, yo, man, we're feeling this. How about we do a 3-song EP? I'm like, okay. So then I did, 2 other songs. After they sent me tracks, sent them back, and they were like, yo, why don't we do a 6-song? I'm like, okay. And it turned into 9, and it's like, hey, man, why don't you just come and join the Stone's Throw family with the great Mad Lib and, Jay Dilla, rest in peace, who done one of the great underground albums all time with Donuts. And, of course, MF Doom, Mad Villain and all of that, man. So I joined that family. Dame Funk and all of those guys, and yeah, that's produced the Higher album. That's how it came to be.
Wow, man, yeah, that was a real special collaboration. And then fast forward not too much longer after that, the 7 Days of Funk, Snoop Dogg and Dame pulled you in, and you kind of did a reworking of One Question off of Higher. And Snoop rapped on it a little bit.
Well, it was a song that I had done, but I didn't put it on the Higher album. I guess Dame let Snoop hear, and he dug it. And so he dropped his verses in it, and then I did a little bit more to it. And yeah, man, One Question. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man.
I was really happy when I saw you on that record, I gotta say. That was a real special album for me.
Yeah, man, they did their thing, and I was happy to be a part of that. Especially when you think about, Snoop had done, Let's Get Blown, which is the actual verse melody of Watching You. And then, of course, he did walking down the street smoking Indo gin and juice, which was the hook of watching you.
Right, that was a slave reference.
Absolutely.
We're going to do a little compare and contrast for the listener here.
Okay.
Walking down the street, watching ladies go by, watching you. Walking down the street, watching ladies go by, watching you. Rolling down the street, smoking Indo, sipping on gin and juice. Laid back.
With my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Pretty cool that whole thing came full circle and became a collaboration.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed how that song came out.
I just need you near me, hear me, feel me, hold me, love me only. And if you can do that for me, owe me back like you owe me. Click cocking, hip hopping, ready or not.
And then I guess after that, you'd done a whole lot of live performances.
Yes, a lot of live performances in the classic, and the people who grew up with the classic music, and also on the underground scene as well. A lot of collabs I've been doing. I'm excited about the collab that I did with the great George Clinton. After 48 years, he does his first Parliament album, 48, 38, something like that years. And I'm on that
Had you
song.
met him before that?
No, I hadn't. I'd been on tour with him many times, and many of the people that were around in the camp, but we had never met specifically before that time in the studio. It was great.
Yeah, I'm sure he was probably another earlier influence on you.
Yeah. Hey, make my funk the P-Funk. I want my funk uncut. Man, come on, man. That tune right there, come on. Make my funk the P-Funk. Come on, bruh. I want the bomb. I want the P-Funk. Don't want my funk stepped on. Man, come on, man. I go back. I told him this, too. This is a great story. I says, George, I go back to I Just Want to Testify. He said, what? I said, yeah, man. He says, oh, you mean Chocolate City artist? I said, no. I'm talking about the original I Just Want to Testify. Singing group vibe, bro. When you was the Parliaments. I go back to that. And he was like, okay. He was feeling that. I said, yeah, man, I've been down since day one, bro. I've been down since day one. I go back to, obviously Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been down with the whole P-Funk, Funkadelic movement when he was a singing group singing Motown sounding type music. And what a change he made, too. How do you go from that to the mighty Funkadelic P-Funk juggernaut that he ended up to be? But yeah, that's one of the collabs. I did a collab with the great Thundercat album.
Yes.
It Is What It Is.
Yes, let's talk about that.
The track was Black Qualls, absolutely. And he hit me up and said, Steve, man, I got this joint, man. I hear you on it. Would you be interested in rocking it? I'm like, send it out. And so I did the vocal here in the lab. He told me about the Steve's thing he was doing, because you have Steve Lacy.
Yeah.
Steve Ellison.
He's another heavy hitter these days.
Yeah, man. And of course, Flying Lotus, Steve Ellison. And
all the Steves.
Yeah. And of course, Stephen Bruner, also known as Thundercat. And then Steve Arrington, and we all came together as the Steves, right? Under, the great Thundercat umbrella of bringing us all together.
Gotta keep it on the low, 'cause I've been robbed before. Sometime I wanna say that I'm blessed. Black man's grind gon' answer the test. The box you try to throw me in don't fit me no more. No. Creative spirit talking, creative spirit walking. And I ain't trying to
No more living in fear if we don't talk about it. We don't talk, then we feel safe. Each one of us with tiny, tiny, tiny screens. I've been running like a song. Woo, sweating like my feet gon' break. But I keep hearing, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. What? Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Don't
I loved the track. I loved his album, and he won Progressive R&B Album of the Year at the Grammys, by the way. And I was so happy for him, and I was happy to be a part of that because I co-wrote with him and Steve Lacy the first single, Black Qualls. And yes, and we also did that on Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, that was a terrific record and a great way to kick it off with that single. And I'm just so grateful that he didn't also get Steven Tyler in on the mix, because that would have just been too much.
That's a good one.
You know, he could have, but he didn't. So God bless you, Thundercat. I have one just curiosity. I don't know if this is even for the show, but being from Ohio, Dayton, man, that Sun album, Sunburn, is fire. I mean, appropriately so. But yeah, did you ever bump shoulders with those guys?
Absolutely. We all came up together. You know, the thing about the Dayton scene is we all were doing Battle of the Bands and talent shows together. I'm talking about the primary people that you see in Lakeside to this very day. The people that were in Phaso, we were doing talent shows with them on the show.
That's the only band you talked about that I don't know. I gotta do some homework there.
Oh, you'll dig that.
Man, that one Sun song though, I had a choice, but I chose wrong.
Oh man.
I made a promise, girl, to leave it alone. Oh, kills me. So
Man,
good.
Son was the ooh-wee, bro. Yeah, bro, Son, come on, man. All this thing came out in Dayton. All of us were at the same time. You got the Ohio Players. You've got Son. You've got Zap. You've got Slave. You've got Vesta Williams. You've got Phaso. You've got Heat Wave. You've got Lakeside. Yo, all of that was coming out at the same time, man.
When are you going to collaborate with Guided by Voices? That's what I want to know. You know those cats?
Nope.
Oh, they're a Dayton band. They've been happening for, I don't know, probably about 40 years.
No, I ain't up on that, bro. Are they the gospel joint?
They're a sloppy rock and roll band that writes beautiful 1-minute songs. Anthems that only take a minute or two.
Well, you know, I dig the punk scene, that came out of here, and I'm familiar with some of it, but not that.
So, in my opinion, there have always been a couple people that could get away with scatting. That's Ella Fitzgerald and Lee Perry.
Yes.
And then you, because you got a flow. And you love to scat, I'm guessing, because you do it a lot.
You don't stop. Make you wanna feel like
Yes, and see, I don't call it scatting.
What do you call it?
Not for any particular reason do I not call it scatting. I just call it Arringtonisms.
I like that. I like that.
And I say that because I don't have a particular scatting library in my mind of what scatting is, that you have to make certain sounds to say, oh, I'm scatting. I mean, I just make sounds. I just let it do what it do. And
You're just vocalizing.
exactly.
I mean, you got a great instrument, and you got to do whatever you want with that, man.
Well, yeah, and you know, and those people that you mentioned know, like, ooh wee, you know. I tell you, man, I was listening to some Betty Carter just last week, man. I love Betty Carter, man. So yeah, and she's one of the great vocalists, and her scatting and her vocalizations are just second to none, and she's very innovative in that way as well.
I have this running question that I like to ask a lot of my more esteemed guests, and that is, if I were to bring you a burger, and I might someday if I'm ever around, how do you like your burger, Steve Arrington?
Well, medium well, on the well side of medium well.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go with my mustard and my ketchup, and I'm going to ask for extra pickle.
Ooh,
And
man after my own heart.
hey, now I'm going to do
Come
the
on.
cheese thing, right? I'm going to go
Yeah,
with
what kind of cheese you like? You just like the American cheese, like the plastic orange cheese?
well, I can rock the classic orange cheese. I can do the Kobe cheese. You know what I'm saying? I could do the cheddar. I can go eat those routes, but I'm going to go with the American cheese because we just going to go with the classic American joint, right? So I'm going to,
Yeah.
but I like the other two as well.
Okay.
And, you know, yeah, I'm gonna go that route, man. I don't need a whole lot. Now then, that's one style. I gotta do a 2-piece on this one. The other thing I gotta
tell you, nobody else has ever described the same burger I want until right now. You hit the nail. Nothing too fancy.
Yeah, I mean, if you threw some onions on it, I'm cool with the onions
pickles
too.
on there.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, okay, I want to take it to another level. Now, you thinking like a quarter pounder, double burger, or a plate of sliders that are done just like that?
You know what? I'm gonna go with the double burger joint.
Oh man, I don't know if we can hang out. I'm going for the sliders.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the double burger joint because I don't know what sliders are, bruh.
Sliders, that's like the little like 4-bite burgers. They give you
okay, no,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
like
see,
kind of White Castle sized, but
yeah, so that's sliders. Okay, see, I don't rock White Castle. That's like in a
White
pinch.
Castle's not my thing, but that size.
Oh, okay, that's
done
great.
just
Say, man,
right,
I can't.
yeah.
Well, no disrespect to White Castle. I just don't rock like that. But okay, I'm feeling you. Yeah, I didn't know what sliders were.
I think we could coexist in a burger universe.
Hey,
No problem.
a burger is a good thing. Hey, now by the
It
way,
sure
man,
is.
we just talked about Steve Tyler, and I just gonna have to keep it 100. You know, I was down with some Aerosmith, bro. As a matter of fact, I met them at the hotel that I was playing at when I was doing the whole lounge music thing, tie yellow ribbon around the old oak tree and all of that. I met those guys, man. So, you know, big ups to Steve Tyler too.
Hang on, can you give me just a few words about doing your lounge music thing? Because I know you've mentioned it before.
Okay,
but,
here we go. I met this guy. I went to a music store in Dayton, and at that time you'd have a bulletin board, and they would have looking for a drummer, looking for a guitar player, blase, blase, scoop. I went in there looking for a drummer to do some road work and doing the lounge band thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, because like I said, I'm a music adventurist, so I get my Tony Bennett on, and I can, and of course a lot of the lounge bands, they also do top 40 stuff too. But in this particular situation, this group called the Murphys. And here's what's so cool about the Murphys. That group had so many people that went on to do some great things. So Clifford Murphy was a mentor. Tom Arrington, who ended up being the bass player for Buddy Rich after he left the Murphys, and he played keys with the Murphys because Clifford Murphy played bass. But he went to play with Buddy Rich and ended up marrying Buddy Rich's daughter. He played bass. And then there was Victor Gotze, who ended up being one of the original keyboard players on Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame. He also played in the Murphys. I pulled him into the Murphys. And, so that situation was very cool. I came out of the Murphys and did my thing. So that was sort of a place of getting it together. And we played so many different styles of music because Clifford had played with a lot of the greats, Duke Ellington and people like that, Count Basie, and he was part of the house band at this great historic club in Detroit called Baker's. So the Murphys, that was a cool thing. We were singing Tie a Yellow Ribbon Round the Old Oak Tree. It's been 3 long years. Do you still get my lounge voice? You know what I'm saying? And we did some straight up jazz. We did so many, pop, top 40 stuff. But Clifford's thing is he wanted to go to Vegas. He wanted to do the Tahoe thing, and that was his thing, and he was able to do that. Rest in peace, Clifford. So many great musicians came through that band. He was one of the great band leaders too. I had much love and honor for the great Clifford Murphy. Absolutely.
Nice. What's next for you? What's next for Steve Arrington?
Well, all of my shows, after doing the Jimmy Kimmel show, I was supposed to go over to Europe with Thundercat, and then I was to go back over to do some shows as the leader myself under my own name, and continuing to do shows around the States, and everything got canceled a whole year and some, and still figuring out when to pull the trigger to get back to doing shows now. I'm in the midst of figuring all of that out with the promoters and also the booking agents. So I'll just see how that all takes place. And in the meantime, I've been doing more collabs. And I'm excited about that too, because different music, doing some house stuff.
Nice. You got into that a little bit on the Soul Sessions album.
Absolutely.
So, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
What is there a track you'd like to go out on?
Well, You're Not Ready for Me is a good joint, because we were just talking about some house.
All right. Well, Steve, it's been such a pleasure hearing your stories and learning more about your life and music. Thank you so much for making time, and bless you, man.
Thank you, Markley, and I really enjoyed the interview.
I told you ain't ready for me. Exquisite. I told you. I said that you ain't ready for me. Here I come to ride the wind. I'm on the one, crystal clear. The fog is lifted, now I'm here. Not what I see. Yeah. My faith stands in what I believe. We agree, me, myself, and I, y'all, that you're not ready for me.
You've been listening to Low Profile. I'm Markley Morrison, and my guest today has been the great Steve Arrington. If you'd like to learn more about his music, there's some links on this episode's website. You can find that at lowprofilepodcast.com. Later on this month, Rhino Records is releasing Stellar Funk, The Best of Slave, featuring Steve Arrington, on vinyl for Black History Month. So that's some funk history for y'all that is available soon. If you'd like to get in touch with me, please shoot me an email at lowprofilemarkley@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. Please tell a friend if you like the show, and we'll catch you again in a couple weeks.
That's what my daddy used to say. Now here's me. I don't see risk, I see opportunity, so I maintain.